In the pre-dawn stillness of a modest Ohio suburb, Amelia Harper's alarm pierced the quiet at 4:30 a.m. The faint scent of yesterday's coffee lingered in her small kitchen as she packed a lunch for her daughter, Lily, her hands moving with the rhythm of routine. At 38, Amelia was a cafeteria worker at Lincoln Elementary School, her days filled with the clatter of trays and the chatter of children. It wasn't a glamorous job, scooping mashed potatoes, wiping down sticky tables, but the kids' smiles and their eager, "Ms. Amelia, this is so yummy," warmed her heart. She wasn't chasing fame or fortune, she believed in the quiet power of small acts of love. Especially for her family. Growing up, Amelia had been the backbone of her fractured household. Her father passed when she was 15, leaving her mother, Evelyn, a part-time retail clerk, to raise Amelia and her younger sister, Sophia, alone. Evelyn, hardened by life's struggles, often leaned on Amelia, the responsible eldest, to cook, clean, and keep things together. Sophia, 10 years younger, was the family's golden child, her dreamy eyes and shy ambition a beacon of hope. Evelyn doted on her, whispering, "Sophia's going to make us proud." Amelia, though, was rarely seen, her role was to support, not to shine. When Sophia, at 14, declared she wanted to become a doctor, Amelia felt a swell of pride. But Evelyn's response was a heavy sigh over a crackling phone line, "With my income, it's impossible." Amelia, now married to Daniel, a real estate agent with an unsteady income, and mother to 5-year-old Lily, felt the weight of that dream. She'd never had the chance to chase her own ambitions. College was a distant fantasy, but she could give Sophia that chance. "I'll pay her tuition," Amelia said, her voice steady despite the numbers flashing in her mind. $8 a year. It was a stretch for their family, living paycheck to paycheck in a modest ranch-style home. But Amelia saw it as her duty to her sister. As Sophia entered medical school, her calls grew frequent, her voice tinged with anxiety. "Scholarships don't cover everything," she'd say. "I need help with rent, groceries, textbooks." Amelia didn't hesitate. She started sending $300 a month, a sum that crept up to $1 as Sophia's needs grew. Medical school, Amelia reasoned, was grueling, no time for part-time jobs. To make it work, she skipped new clothes for Lily, traded family dinners out for homemade meals, and ignored her own small desires, a new dress, a weekend getaway. Watching Sophia chase her dream was enough, she told herself, never expecting thanks. Evelyn's occasional praise, "You're doing right by your sister," was the closest she got to gratitude. But the truth came crashing down during a lunch break in the school cafeteria. A coworker, Maria, scrolled through Instagram and gasped, "Amelia, isn't this your sister?" On the screen, Sophia glowed in a designer cocktail dress, sipping wine at a rooftop bar in Chicago. Designer shopping bags cluttered the table. Captioned, "Treating myself today." Amelia's heart sank. She scrolled further, her fingers trembling. Sophia lounging by a resort pool in Miami, indulging in spa days, flaunting a Louis Vuitton purse. There was no sign of the struggling student Amelia had pictured, buried in textbooks. The $1 a month Amelia scraped together, sacrificing Lily's dance lessons. Her own rare moments of self-care, was funding a lifestyle Amelia could barely fathom. The betrayal cut deeper on Lily's 7th birthday. Amelia had poured her heart into a small party at home, homemade chocolate cake, colorful streamers, and Lily's friends giggling in the backyard. She invited Sophia, hoping her presence would make Lily's eyes light up. "I'm swamped with a medical conference," Sophia texted, her tone apologetic. Amelia believed her, softening the blow for Lily. "Aunt Sophia's just busy, sweetheart." Lily nodded, her small smile masking disappointment. Days later, Amelia opened Instagram without thinking and froze. Sophia, in a bikini, posed on a Florida beach, a glass of champagne sparkling in her hand. The caption read, "Weekend vibes, well deserved, no conference, no late-night study sessions, just lies and a carefree getaway." That night, Amelia lay awake beside Daniel and Lily, their soft breathing a stark contrast to the storm in her chest. She replayed every sacrifice, the $8 tuition payments, the $1 monthly transfers, the years of putting her family second. Sophia had never offered heartfelt thanks, never acknowledged the weight of Amelia's support. To her, Amelia was a bottomless well, a resource to tap without guilt. Evelyn, too, had never questioned Sophia's needs, always quick to praise her future doctor, while dismissing Amelia's efforts. The realization burned. She'd been used. Her kindness exploited by the family she'd poured her heart into. A cream-colored envelope arrived in late spring, embossed with gold lettering from the Grandview Hotel, a luxurious venue in downtown Columbus. It was an invitation to Sophia's medical school graduation party, a milestone Amelia had helped make possible. She chose her best dress, a simple navy gown that hugged her frame, and spent extra time curling her hair, adding a soft touch of makeup. She wanted to feel worthy of the occasion, to stand proudly beside her sister. Lily, twirling in her sundress, beamed. "Mom, you look like a movie star." Amelia's eyes welled up, her heart swelling with love and pride. The Grandview's banquet hall was a vision of elegance, white linens, gold accents, and soft jazz floating through the air. But at the reception desk, the attendant's smile faltered. "I'm sorry, I don't see your name on the guest list," she said, scanning her tablet. Amelia, clutching the invitation, insisted, "This is my invite." Before the attendant could respond, a sharp voice cut through the murmur of the crowd. "Amelia, what are you doing here?" Sophia stood there, her sleek black dress catching the light, her expression a mix of shock and disdain. Evelyn, beside her, avoided Amelia's gaze, her lips pursed in a familiar grimace. "What do you mean? I was invited to your graduation," Amelia said, her voice steady but her heart racing. Sophia's eyes narrowed. "There's been a mistake. Your name's not on the family list. This isn't your place anymore." Evelyn's voice, low and cutting, added, "You're not needed here, Amelia." Amelia's breath caught, her fingers tightening around the gift she'd wrapped for Sophia, a delicate necklace chosen with Lily. "I'm family, aren't I?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sophia's smile was cold, almost cruel. "Your job is done. We don't need you anymore." Evelyn muttered, "You've always been out of your depth. Amelia, a cafeteria worker at a doctor's gala? You were meant to stay behind the scenes." The words landed like blows, each one sharper than the last. "Please, just go home," Sophia said, her voice dripping with contempt. "That cheap dress is embarrassing." Evelyn's final jab was a whisper, but it echoed. "Security. Escort this woman out. She doesn't belong here." The room seemed to freeze, every eye on Amelia as a man in a black suit approached. "Ma'am, I'm sorry," he began, his tone professional but firm. Amelia barely heard him, her feet felt glued to the marble floor, her mind reeling. She turned and walked out, her steps slow, her head bowed to avoid the pitying stares. The gift in her hands felt like a stone, a symbol of her misplaced trust. In the hotel lobby, she sank into a plush lounge chair, the cushion swallowing her weight but not her pain. The words rang in her ears. "Your job is done. You don't belong here." Out of your depth. Her fingers trembled around her phone, anger and grief churning within her. She thought of Lily's disappointed smile on her birthday, of the years she'd sacrificed for a sister who saw her as nothing more than a means to an end. Evelyn's favoritism, always subtle but ever present, flashed through her mind, praising Sophia's potential while dismissing Amelia as just the responsible one. The betrayal wasn't just Sophia's, it was a family dynamic that had always placed Amelia last. But beneath the hurt, something stirred, a quiet, burning resolve. Amelia whispered to herself, "It's time to tell the truth." She stood, her heart pounding but her steps firm, and walked back toward the ballroom, ready to reclaim her voice. The golden doors of the Grandview Hotel's ballroom loomed like a challenge, their polished surface reflecting Amelia's determined silhouette. The navy dress, once a source of pride, now felt like armor, and the gift for Sophia, a necklace she'd never wear, sat heavy in her purse. The words of her sister and mother echoed, "Your job is done. You don't belong here." Those words, meant to shatter her, had instead kindled a fire. Amelia pushed open the doors. The soft creak drowned by the hum of celebration inside. The ballroom was alive with clinking glasses and self-congratulatory laughter. The air thick with the scent of roses and champagne. On stage, a man in a tailored suit, Sophia's advisor, Dr. Reynolds, praised her as a future leader in medicine, destined to change lives. Sophia stood beside him, her black dress shimmering, her smile polished and serene. To the crowd, she was a star. To Amelia, she was the sister who'd turned her sacrifices into resort vacations and designer handbags. Who'd lied about conferences to skip Lily's birthday. Amelia approached the MC, a wiry man with a nervous smile, and leaned in. "May I say a few words?" "Just 2 minutes," she said, her voice calm but unyielding, her eyes locking onto his. He hesitated, glancing at the crowd, but the steel in her gaze made him nod. He handed her the microphone, and a hush fell over the room, curiosity rippling through the sea of elegant guests. Amelia stepped onto the stage, the spotlight hot against her skin, her heart pounding but her resolve unshaken. "Good evening," she began, her voice steady, almost warm, as if addressing old friends. "I'm Amelia Harper, Sophia's older sister. I came here to celebrate her achievements." Like many of you, the crowd relaxed, expecting a toast, but Amelia's next words cut through the air like a knife. "I know you're proud of Sophia. I was, too, but there's a truth you deserve to hear." She paused, letting the silence settle, her eyes scanning the faces before her. Sophia's tuition, $8 a year, was more than our mother could afford. "So I paid it, every year." Gasps rippled through the room, eyes widening. "She told me scholarships weren't enough to live on, so I sent her $300 a month. Then $1. I'm married, with a young daughter, and we cut back on our own lives to make it possible. I skipped new clothes for my child, family outings, my own dreams." Her voice trembled, but she pressed on. "I also took over the mortgage on our family home. Without me, Sophia wouldn't be standing here today." The room was silent now, the weight of her words sinking in. Sophia, at the back, tried to shout something, her face flushed, but the microphone drowned her out. Amelia's gaze was unflinching. "I never asked for anything in return. I did it because we were family. Because I believed in her dream. But tonight, my sister and my mother told me, your role is over. You don't belong here. They had me thrown out of this room. Called me a cafeteria worker who's out of her depth." The crowd held its breath, shock etched on every face. Sophia's cheeks burned red, her composure crumbling. Evelyn, clutching her purse, had gone pale, her eyes fixed on the floor. Amelia's voice softened, but her words carried fire. "I wanted this night to be about Sophia's success. But now, it's about reclaiming my life. If standing here makes me out of place, so be it, but the ones who need to reconsider their place aren't me." She handed the microphone back to the MC, her movements deliberate, and walked off the stage. No applause followed, but she didn't need it. The truth hung heavy in the air, undeniable. As she left the ballroom, the weight in her chest lifted, replaced by a strange lightness. Outside, the cool Ohio night wrapped around her, the stars above Columbus twinkling like a promise. For the first time in years, Amelia felt free, not just from her family's expectations, but from the role she'd been forced into since childhood. At home, Lily greeted her sleepily, her small arms wrapping around Amelia's waist. "Welcome back, Mommy," she murmured, her voice a balm. Amelia's eyes welled up, tears of release spilling over. In the quiet of their living room, she sat with Daniel, the dim glow of a lamp casting shadows on the walls. She told him everything, Sophia's lies, Evelyn's cruelty, the public humiliation, her speech. He listened, his face etched with concern, then sighed deeply. "I've been worried, Amelia. You've been giving too much, breaking yourself to hold them up. You didn't do anything wrong. You were taken advantage of because you're kind. But it's okay to draw the line now." His words sank into her, grounding her like an anchor. She thought of her childhood, always in Sophia's shadow, cooking and cleaning while Evelyn praised her future doctor. She thought of Lily's disappointed smile on her birthday, of the years she'd sacrificed for a family that saw her as a means to an end. "I'm done," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "I'm taking formal action about the house. I'll talk to a lawyer and start the eviction process." Daniel nodded, his hand squeezing hers. "I've seen everything you've done, Amelia. It's time to close this chapter." The next morning, Amelia sat in a lawyer's office in downtown Columbus. Her financial records spread across a polished desk, bank statements, mortgage papers, proof of every payment she'd made since her father's death. The attorney, Ms. Carter, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, reviewed the documents. "The property is in your name," she said. "You've paid the mortgage for years. You have full rights to request that your family vacate. We'll start with a certified notice. If they don't comply, we'll proceed with eviction." On her way home, Amelia stopped at Baker's Haven, a small bakery she'd loved as a teenager. Its warm scent of butter and fresh bread was a refuge during her youth. When she'd escaped the weight of her family's expectations, standing there, holding a warm croissant, she felt a quiet whisper, "You did well." The girl who'd carried her family was finally stepping into her own light. Days later, the certified letter was delivered. Evelyn's response was immediate, her voice crackling with fury over the phone. "You're kicking us out? We've lived here for years." Amelia's reply was calm, unwavering. "Do you remember who's been paying the mortgage since Dad died? This house is in my name. I've carried it alone, no help, no gratitude, no respect. I'm done." Evelyn's voice rose. "You're abandoning your family." Amelia didn't flinch. "I thought family meant mutual support, not one person sacrificing everything. And didn't you say my role was over? Maybe Sophia can help you now. She's a doctor, isn't she?" Silence hung heavy, then a click as Evelyn hung up. A week later, Ms. Carter confirmed the deadline. "If the house isn't vacated, we'll file for eviction." Amelia didn't hesitate. She was done letting emotions dictate her choices. When the deadline arrived, she drove to the house, her heart steady but her hands gripping the steering wheel. The house was empty, the echoes of Evelyn and Sophia gone. The legal dispute over the title was settled. And for the first time, Amelia felt a peace that wasn't fragile, a peace earned through courage. But peace didn't erase the scars. The betrayal lingered, whispering regrets in quiet moments. Amelia didn't want her years of sacrifice to define her as the sister who was used. She wanted to rewrite her story. One day, in the school kitchen, she overheard Maria, her coworker, lamenting to another colleague, "Sarah, my son, Javier, is doing great in school. But college? Tuition's out of reach." Sarah sighed. "I wish kids like him had a real shot." The words struck Amelia like a bolt, stirring memories of her own unfulfilled dreams. That night, she sat at her kitchen table, a notebook open, her pen flying across the pages. She wrote of kids like Javier, like Lily, like the girl she'd been, bright, hard-working, but trapped by circumstance. The idea took shape, the Amelia Harper Education Fund, a nonprofit to support students from struggling families. Daniel offered a sunlit corner of his real estate office as a starting space. And their legal advisor, Ms. Carter, helped with the paperwork. "Amelia," she said, "your pain isn't a weakness, it's your strength. Support born from lived experience changes lives." The road wasn't easy. Amelia spent late nights researching grants, meeting with school counselors, and pitching to local businesses for donations. There were moments of doubt, when a sponsor backed out, when paperwork stalled, but Daniel's quiet encouragement and Lily's proud smiles kept her going. 6 months later, the fund held its first scholarship ceremony at a Columbus community center. 3 high school seniors stood on stage: Javier, a first-generation Mexican-American dreaming of engineering; Aisha, a Somali refugee aiming for nursing; and Ethan, a quiet boy from a foster home who wanted to study literature. Their families filled the room, eyes shining with hope. Javier's mother, Rosa, gripped Amelia's hand, tears streaming. "You've given my boy a future." "Thank you." Amelia smiled, her hand gentle on Rosa's shoulder. "It's okay. Javier has potential, and I've always believed in that." As the crowd applauded, Amelia's heart swelled, not with pride, but with purpose. She'd turned her pain into something beautiful. On the drive home, Lily squeezed her hand. Mom, you were amazing today. I want to be like you when I grow up. Amelia's eyes misted, the words wrapping around her heart. Weeks later, a bundle of letters arrived at the office, handwritten notes from the students. Because of you, I'm in college, Javier wrote, his handwriting uneven but heartfelt. I want to help others, too. Amelia held the letters close, her eyes closing as quiet joy washed over her. She hadn't started this for thanks. But knowing her choices had lit someone else's path filled her with a warmth she'd never known. Sophia and Evelyn faded from her life. Whispers reached Amelia. Sophia struggling with medical training. Dropping out. Working night shifts at a hospital. Evelyn blaming her for weakness until they parted ways. Amelia felt no anger, no sorrow. Their choices were their own. Their paths no longer hers. She'd learned that family wasn't blood, it was the bonds of the heart. In a sunlit park, Daniel and Lily laughed together. Lily's giggles dancing through the air. Amelia watched from a bench. The breeze soft against her skin. At 38, she was no longer the lunch lady defined by sacrifice. She was a woman who empowered others. Surrounded by a family who saw her worth. The nonprofit was growing, set to launch a statewide scholarship program next year, reaching kids from Cleveland to Cincinnati. Amelia's purpose was clear, to believe in someone's future. To give them the chance she'd never had. Lily ran toward her, waving a dandelion. Mom, look. Amelia opened her arms, catching her daughter in a fierce embrace. You're my everything, she whispered, holding her close. In that moment, Amelia knew she'd fought for a life worth every breath, a life unshackled. Surrounded by love that mattered. She'd learned to value herself. Not as a sacrifice, but as a woman walking her own truth.